Hello everyone, my name is Sikadi Payani Shahane and I am the CEO of the South African Institution of Civil Engineering. Today we are gathered here for another installment of our CEO podcast, and we're here at Civil 2000 in Cape Town with the CEO of Civil 2000 being Chris Buerta. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning.
So Chris, give us a background on Civil 2000, what you specialize in as a construction company, what led to the formation of this key industry player.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm quite proud of being the first contractor on your podcast. Civil 2000 was created in 1992 by two gentlemen, Rob Stark and Colin Shapiro, and we're very fortunate today still to have Colin Shapiro in the business. So we're 33 years old, going strong, and that's how it all started. The name started because of the Olympic Games in 2000. They kind of thought,
oh yes,
that was the horizon at the time.
Yes, I remember that time when we put in a bid.
So many years later, it's still Civil 2000. So.
Oh, that is stunning. Wow, 33 years. Do you only work in the Western Cape, or do you do a lot of work in the rest of South Africa and into Africa as well?
So the majority of our footprint is in the Western Cape. We work in the Eastern Cape, the Northern Cape. We've been as far as the Free State. But the Cape Townians battle to get as far as Gauteng, so we have to start paying the guys danger pay, so we keep them in the Western Cape.
Yeah, no comment on that one. We often hear that there's a shortage of really big construction companies in South Africa. Well, we've seen the big five, deteriorating after 2010 and the likes. And most of our construction engineers have actually moved overseas, and it's quite difficult to attract them back into the country. What are your thoughts on this?
It's amazing that I think at the time Brian Bruce from Maine Roberts said there would be a big post-World Cup hangover. And that's been 15 years later, and we're still kind of suffering as a result of that. We have lost a lot of capacity in our industry. The talent pool is limited. We do a lot of things to make sure that we look like an attractive employer in the construction space. But I would agree that talent is limited. And there are so many good opportunities out there at the moment, and there's such a hard emphasis on construction as being a driver of the economy.
It is.
That I do think for you to be able to execute, you need to have proper talent, and that is a challenge. I agree.
So what are you guys doing to attract this talent into the company?
Look, there are less engineers than that they are required to build all these wonderful things. I think we work very hard on ourselves as a business to make sure that we create an environment where people can express themselves. We want to be an employer of choice. That means you have to do all kinds of things to attract those talented people out of this limited pool. So we work really hard on making sure that we're a value-based business. People feel they can kind of align their personal plans to our business plan. And that goes a long way to kind of get the message out there that we are an employer of choice.
How many engineers do you have in the business, plus or minus?
We've got a mix of diplomats and graduates, but I would guess we're probably about 45 to 50 engineers.
Okay, awesome. And do you also employ other people from the built environment?
Yes, we do. I mean, in the construction space, you need quite a wide variety of talent and skill to get a project built. So planners, QSs, a lot of foremen, obviously. Financial side from our side is very strong, big HR support. A whole collection of is needed to be successful, I think.
I remember we once talked about your upskilling program or your training program that you have within the company. Can you just give us more on that? And also, I know that as the construction players within the Western Cape, you also have almost like a formation where you support underprivileged children and the like to study further. Can you just give us some insights on that?
We got several programs. Try not to let out all the secrets, but we've got an extremely enthusiastic and engaging HR team that focuses on our people and talent. Really some hard work out there to get good people into your business, but then also to develop them. Exactly. And if you're not going to be employing developed and already people at the kind of forefront of the careers, you have to kind of develop them in-house.
Yeah.
So we've got several programs ranging from our most juniors. We just had a Young Guns session just the other day. We focus a lot on the operational guys out there on site, our constructors, and then a lot of professional development for our engineers and our guys, managers, to try and create a more holistic view of how we deal with our projects, how we deal with our clients and our professional teams.
And in the industry?
Well, look, I think the industry in the Western Cape has tried very hard. It's a tough environment to motivate people to join us. Obviously, it's not one of the sexiest industries. So I think the drawing of talent and then to upskill them is a responsibility we all have. Because if we educate somebody out there, that's not necessarily part of your business. You're putting a good person out into our industry
Exactly.
and our environment. So
Exactly.
we have to be responsible towards our industry as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good initiatives in the Western Cape. We try and engage not only just with universities, but obviously every other college and those feeder institutes that create these constructors that we need. So there's quite a bit of engagement, Saice being one of them.
So what call to action, because there's a lot of like young players or new players that are coming in, some of whom don't even come from a built environment background, which has infiltrated this construction industry. So what call of action would you have for them in terms of their responsibility to, professionally developing their members and the employees and their staff?
Yeah, I would say to our guys that there's absolutely no guarantee for success. So you have to do a whole lot of good things to give yourself the best possibility of success. To try and push the statistics up so that you get that statistical opportunity of being successful. And if you don't do that on the basis of talented, competent staff,
Yeah.
or people, you're just not going to get there, no matter what you do. And I think for us to have not only good contractors, but good professional teams, good legislators, people deciding and driving
Yes.
construction in this country, if you don't
Yes.
have those people educated and informed and exposed, then we'll fail ourselves. So for me, to all those people out there, we've got a massive amount of talent. It's just unbelievable. I think we had 29 people at our Young Gun session the other day. Of the 29 people that attended, 24 people were of color. Half the people in the room were females.
Yay.
And that happened without us having to force the issue.
Exactly.
It's just we keep saying to ourselves, it's unbelievable the amount of talent out there, and if we don't get past this whole discussion of diversity and inclusivity and all those kind of things that force you to that point, if you can kind of put that to the side, and a bit like the Springboks, if you forget about the challenges you have to have and focus on delivery and outcome and success, those things go away. They become part of your makeup. And for us, certainly it feels that way. We see some of our very young talent running very large projects. And you would go like, geez, how does a young girl of 26 run a 100 million rand project? You don't think that's natural or normal or easy, but we do have that kind of talent, and they're out there. There's just a huge amount of talent out there in our country, and we have to pursue them, chase them down, I think.
Tell us how the construction landscape has changed over the years with the introduction of the SACP CMP. Do you think that construction engineers are still, required to register with the Engineering Council of South Africa?
So SACP CMP these days is a regulated requirement, so everybody has to get professionally registered. I like that part because it creates a little bit of a regulated environment where at least there's some level of consistency. If you want to give yourself a good chance of success, have smart people and develop them and give them that opportunity, and certainly through EXA and Saice we get that. So I think it's been an improvement to our industry.
Okay, that's awesome. Does your company, for instance, do you utilize a lot of the training that comes from SACP CMP, or where do your guys go to for training?
Yeah, we through the necessary requirements of the point system that has to be kind of maintained for your registration, we do use a lot of the training materials. Again, I think Saice and some other institutions provide a slightly higher standard of training material, which is also important for our guys. But we certainly do use SACP CMP.
Thank you very much for that vote of confidence in what we do as Saice. I know the DPWI Minister, Dean McPherson, always, every single speech, he says he wants to turn South Africa into a construction site. And, there have been various summits that we've been a part of to partner with like the ministry on this aspect. Do you think we can be able to turn the tide within the construction industry in South Africa? Do you think we can get back some of our construction engineers? And what are the issues that you seeing on the ground that are impeding us from being able to achieve this vision?
Look, I think that vision is almost repeated by politicians year after year for the last 30 years that I've been in construction. I do think it's possible, but you must ensure that you've got a legislative framework that supports the delivery of construction projects. I think the tough part is that there's so much red tape involved in some of the processes to get to the ultimate delivery of it. I think we've got a good set of competent contractors in the country. It's a pity that we've got some internationals now invading our space.
Yes.
But that's really as a result of the reduction of our kind of capability pool within the construction industry. So I really think if we can find smarter ways of getting projects delivered, there's certainly been some change recently in legislation to assist the public-private partnership process, which I think will help a lot in terms of delivering projects. So I think I certainly would like to end my career seeing South Africa as a construction site, and I really support that kind of vision. Ultimately, we must make sure that the cogs in the background kind of work in harmony or unison to make sure that it happens.
Yeah, we have an MOU with the Infrastructure South Africa. So one of the studies that we're doing jointly is to just look at the construction industry and the construction industry index. And what they've seen in the last 15 years is that although there's like labor productivity, we still have the same number of people employed, but the type of projects are not as complex. If you look at what we were doing in 2010, where you had like higher skill and more complex projects versus like what we're producing now in the construction industry, I think with the focus on human settlements and the like. Have you seen that in your business? What kind of like projects are you implementing and the complexity thereof?
Look, the Civils 2000 as a group, we do a wide range of things.
Yeah.
For us, we'll do almost anything if we know we can make a good return out of it. So nothing limits us. One of the challenges we find is that one of the legislative requirements at the moment is to use local subcontractors and suppliers, which I think is a very good thing. The problem when projects are done, you have to leave all of those guys behind.
Exactly.
And you have to go to a new area and use new contractors. So you're not getting to develop a contractor and then keep them into mainstream construction for a long enough period of time for them to really start becoming a cornerstone of the industry or really influential. So you keep lifting these small contractors and suppliers up, and then you let them down.
Exactly.
And you lift them up and you let them down. So you don't get that opportunity to keep them in a tumble dryer, if I can say it that way, for long enough so that eventually they become sustainable and keep going. And that's quite disappointing in terms of how legislation supports that. Very good idea, but the net result doesn't necessarily create better and growing contractors.
Yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen it in the stats as well. Yeah. And your projects, tell me about like the best one that you've done in the 33 years that you've been here.
Fortunately, I wasn't here for 33 years.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I would look a little bit older. So at the moment, we're doing some very, very nice projects. We're probably building the two largest bridge structures in the Western Cape.
Okay.
We've got the Sky Circle on the IoT project, and we're in the process of building a 270-meter multi-span bridge at Danafontein. We're delivering a very nice roads project in the Eastern Cape, which is quite exciting. So we do a lot of great stuff. And for me, because construction is my passion, my hobby, everything we do and deliver, and that you can kind of leave this monument behind and walk away and say, listen, I was a part of that process.
Exactly.
And our people put so much heart, effort, and passion into these things that it's really special for me. So not one project's more special than the other, but we do some sexy things out there.
Yeah, that is awesome. I also know that you're quite involved in raising money for young scholars to get through university. Can you tell us more about that program?
Look, we support the Go for Gold process, which I think has been going for quite some time. That's fantastic. We do have a bursary process. We certainly benefit from a lot of the initiatives by the CETAs and others that support the driving of talent into our space. I think we do a lot of work in terms of our selection process. So we try and look at all of those avenues to try and find good talent. So wherever we see real benefit driven into the industry with talent, we certainly support that process.
So you support them from school up until university, and then
So
they
the
come
Go
and
for
work.
Gold process,
Yeah.
we have that, and we're very proud of being one of the co-sponsors there. It's amazing to see a young person coming out of school and developing into a professional in your space, and you go, like, we've known this person for a long time, and we were part of their professional journey, so that's quite important to us.
That is lovely that that still happens within the construction arena. I know it used to happen a lot when I was younger. But, there's just commitment of companies to individuals to ensure that they become great professionals within the industry. And then I think my last question is, how do you want us to support you better? How do you want voluntary associations like Saice to assist you within the construction industry with your programs, with upskilling, with training, with creating a home for civil engineers and a network that your staff can be able to benefit from?
I don't know, maybe this is controversial, but I'm so disappointed that so much of our conversation in the industry is still about inclusivity and diversity so many years after democracy.
Yeah.
At this point, people like yourselves, in my view, should be focused on outcome, output, and delivery and excellence, and measuring ourselves as professionals against what is required of us to make sure this country has got a fantastic infrastructure. So for me, the diversity conversation, inclusivity conversation, very important. But at this point in time, I think we really need different institutions and different companies to stand up and be measured on the impact they make, on how they really deliver and change our country. And for me, that's very important. So I'd really, from your side, I think the training that you guys provide, the voice you have at the regulatory level is extremely important for us. And hopefully you're largely a consultant engineering supported institution, but we're happy to be contractors as part of that process. Just this consistent drive of finding talent, making sure they're excellent, and making sure they deliver on the debt we all owe to this country in terms of making sure it stays around for a long time to come, and that the foundations of it is the infrastructure, and hopefully, you guys can support in that process.
No, that is lovely. I actually interviewed the CEO of Nyeleti, and he said exactly that their company started as a transformation company about 30 years ago. But as time went on, they are more about excellence. They're an excellent company who happen to be inclusive and diverse. And really, that should be what the focus is on, on the excellence that we produce within the industry.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you on that, Chris. Thank you very much for availing yourself to us. And we're not just an institution that is for consulting engineers. Let me put it that we still have a few contractors, but they're still there, and some academia as well. We want to improve our relationship with contracting companies, actually, as an institution. So thank you very much for coming and being here with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.